Welcome to Mikab Model College online tutorial. We hope at the end of this lesson, you will have acquired the expected learning outcome. Sit down and listen attentively as we introduce your subject teacher.
I welcome you again, dear students, to another episode of our lesson for today. I still remain Samson Ibrahim, your biology teacher. In our previous lesson, remember, we have introduced ourselves to the animal kingdom. We have discussed that there are 9 phyla in this kingdom of animal, the kingdom Animalia. Then we have introduced ourselves to the characteristics of the first group of these 9 phyla, the phylum Porifera. Last time we discussed the phylum Coelenterate or Cnidaria. We looked at some of their characteristics and what made them to be specialized or different from each other. In today's lesson, we shall be discussing the characteristics of the phylum Platyhelminthes. So this group of organisms are actually known as the flatworms. But what can we say about this particular group of organisms? Unlike the previous ones we discussed, they are actually soft-bodied animals. So these organisms, some of them may live in aquatic environment, but some of them may not be living inside water. And one good thing you are going to know about them is their distribution. From what you can see on the board, you see that we have about 20,000 species of this animal group. Many of them, if not all of them, are actually living as parasites in the body of humans and in the body of other animals. Some of them are having what we call complete digestive system, while some of them are having incomplete digestive system. As we mentioned this now, you will want to remember in our previous lessons that we released on this format that we said that one of the reasons why animals have to be grouped into various groups is that they do not have the same body patterns, such as digestive system, circulatory system, and all of that. So in this group of organisms, you are going to see that some of them are actually having complete digestive system or complete gut, while some have incomplete gut. Then, this animal group are responsible for many diseases that are common or being caused to animals, such as filariasis, bilharzia, or the one we call schistosomiasis. So, some of them are also living freely. So those ones that are causing diseases in animals and in humans and others, they are living as parasites. But those ones that are living freely among them, they are living as predators. Now, what can we say about them? One thing is that their body is dorsoventrally flattened. So what does this mean? The word dorso is back, while the word ventral, from what you see there ventrally, is front. So meaning from the back to the front of the body, animal's body, it is flattened in form of a tape. So because of this flat nature of the body of this animal group, that is the reason why they are acoelomate. They do not have body cavity known as coelom. So they are dorsoventrally flattened. Then they are also bilaterally symmetrical and are also triploblastic. You will remember what this means now. I do not have to explain it further. Then their body are soft, they are unsegmented, and they live as parasite or as free living, like we have discussed or mentioned before. These organisms exhibit organ system level of organization. That is to say, they live at the organ system level of organization. Remember the previous 2 organismal group we discussed, the Poriferans and the Cnidarians. We did mention that the Poriferans exist at the cellular level, the Cnidarians exist at the tissue level. So, but now we are having organisms that are matured enough to exist at the organ system level of organization. Meaning we are expecting that they are going to have either some organs or some system as part of their body. Remember we mentioned earlier that these organisms are also having incomplete gut. That is incomplete digestive system, while some of them have complete digestive system. So that is to support the fact that they are existing at the organ system level of organization. Another thing is that some of them, digestive system may be present. In some, it may be absent. But in those ones that they are present, the digestive system may be incomplete and it may also be complete. A typical example in this case of organisms that do not have digestive system is the one we call Taenia solium. That is the tapeworm. They do not have digestive system. Circulorespiratory system is absent, and respiration is by simple diffusion. Yes. So this organism use the entire body part to be absorbing, more like the way a sponge will be soaking something. So they use all their body to be absorbing air or gases directly. Then when you talk of circulatory system, they also use their body to absorb those things. So that is why the system are actually lacking, but their respiration is by means of what? Simple diffusion. Excretion is also through what is a structure they have, which we call flame cell. And this flame cell is found in their protonephridia. Again, these organisms they have what we call primitive nervous system. You will remember that the other time in our previous lesson, we showed you the body plan of a cnidaria, and they have what we call nerve net. I remember I explained to you then that nerve net would have functioned like a nervous system, but because the organism is still existing at the tissue level, we don't call that one system. But in this particular group of organisms now, they have what we call nervous system, but their own is still very primitive. Then they are hermaphroditic. What is hermaphrodite? Good answer. Yes, organisms that possess the characters of both what? Male and female sex cells. So they can, some of them carry out sexual reproduction by means of gametic fission, but some is by means of asexual reproduction by means of what we call regeneration and body fission. Okay? Fertilization is internal. So anyone that carries out sexual reproduction, their fertilization is going to be internal. So in fact, when I show you the picture of a Taenia solium later, you see we have what we call proglottid. It is inside this their proglottid that we have numerous eggs that we fertilize internally. And when we get there, I shall tell you how many eggs you can expect to have in one single proglottid of a tapeworm, so that if you are fortunate to have one of them inside your digestive system, you know you are carrying something. Now these organisms, they have classes as well, just like we have in the previous group, the cnidarians, that they belong to particular class, the anthozoans and then the scyphozoan and the rest. So these organisms too are having classes, and the first among those classes is the class Planaria. Then we have the class Trematoda as well as the class Cystoda. Now let's go further so that we'll be able to see some examples that we have in this group of organisms. The first one you see there is Planaria. Then we have what you call liver fluke, which is known as Fasciola hepatica. We have the Taenia solium, the kind of tapeworm that is found inside the body of pigs. So if you like eating pork meat very well, you should be careful to make sure that it is one that is well cooked. Otherwise, if you are eating the gut of a tapeworm, the gut of a pig or pork meat that is not well cooked, it is possible you have Taenia solium inside the gut of these animals. And by the time the egg digests inside your stomach, you will be fortunate to carry Taenia solium with you. And by the time it matures, remember, they do not need another partner to be able to carry out reproduction. They are hermaphroditic, they are hermaphrodites. So they will be able to reproduce sexually on their own. So then we also have the one we call Taenia saginata. We also have this one in beef. So when you kill a cow, then it is also there. But you may be wondering how those things get to them. Don't worry, when we come into feeding system of animals, you'll be able to see how those animals get into the gut of these how those parasites get into the gut of this animal. Then you have the one we call Echinococcus granulosus. This is the kind of worm that is found in the gut or in the system of what they call it, dogs. So on this note, I shall be taking you to study some of the parts of the structure of a typical tapeworm. Here in this picture that you can see, we have tried to highlight the head of this organism. This is actually Taenia. This is an example of Taenia, a worm that we find in the body of pigs. That is Taenia solium. Now we have highlighted the head region so that you'll be able to see it very closely. This is what we know as the hook. So this particular part is what they use in attaching themselves to the body or to the gut of any animal they find themselves in, either that of pigs, the one of a cattle, or even man if they should find themselves in man. So by means of this, since their body is dorsoventrally flattened, and you want to know the reason why they are being called tapeworm, because they are very long, and from the body structure you can see it looks like a tape. Now each of these square-like part is what we call proglottids. So at the beginning region we have the early stage of the young proglottids. Then those ones at this region are the mature, the older forms of proglottids, and each of these proglottid is having numerous eggs. I can assure you, you will have nothing less than about 25,000 of eggs inside one proglottid alone. So how many proglottids are there? Only God knows. Maybe you can start counting on your own, so I will no longer be there then, but you can count. So when you count, you multiply by about 25,000 of eggs and see how many eggs you will have in just one tapeworm. So imagine a situation whereby this animal is now found inside the body of man, and it has to reproduce sexually. The eggs will fertilize by themselves inside while they are inside the body. So you can imagine how many tapeworm we now. So the person is as good as dead. So that is why we say when these things are found inside the body of organisms, they cause series of diseases, whether it is filariasis or bilharzia and schistosomiasis and all of that, all sorts of diseases. That is how we find them. And we are taking a look at another example of platyhelminthes now, or what you call flatworm. This one is known as Planaria. This is Planaria worm. The body is also dorsoventrally flattened, like you can see. This is the back, this is the front. So it is dorsoventrally flattened. But you can see the way where the mouth is. So it has what you call pharynx, which is protruded. Yes, meaning it can withdraw it inside and it can bring it outward. That is where the mouth is. To be able to get food now, feed on something, so it will protrude the pharynx out. The pharynx is actually protrusible, so then it will use to capture food and then withdraw it back inside again. So that is where the mouth is located, but this is the head. And the primitive nervous system we mentioned, this is where we have that primitive nervous system. In the case of this one, digestive system is incomplete, please. It only has one opening through the mouth. There is no anus. So digestive system is what? Incomplete. But in the first one we use as an example, what can we say about them? That is a tapeworm. That one does not have digestive system, because when it is found inside the body of animals or humans, they will go and hide at where food is being digested in your body. That is in the intestine, the small intestine. So all the food that has been absorbed, that has been digested completely, they will be absorbing it directly into their own body system. That is why tapeworms do not need digestive system, but Planaria actually has, because it can feed by itself. Only that the digestive system of Planaria is incomplete. So, having taken a look at the body of a Planaria as well as that of tapeworm, and seeing what it looks like, how they carry out their feeding, and the fact that they have primitive nervous system which is found at the head region, you will see it being labeled as ganglia. That is where you have the network of nerves there that are functioning as primitive nervous system. So this is the organism, And from what you have seen, you see that all of them, they are dorsoventrally flattened. So some of them have digestive system, some of them do not have. Those that have could be complete or incomplete digestive system. So at this juncture, we are going to draw the curtain close once again for today's lesson. So what do we hope to enjoy in our next lesson? We shall be taking a look at another group of organisms entirely. So remember, we have just finished discussing the phylum Platyhelminthes, that is the flatworms. So we have also seen the differences between this group of organisms and the previous ones we discussed in our previous episode, if you have been following us along. So what in the whole of West Africa, what you will be expected to know as students of biology, and what the West African examination will expect of you, is for you to be able to differentiate one organism from the other, especially in the area of these body structures, how one differs from the other. And I believe as you have been following them along now, you have been able to see some of the things they use in differing themselves from another. Please